Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the County Services Subcommittee of the Washington County Quorum Court to order. Welcome, everybody, this evening. Glad to see everyone. I believe we have Justice Lemming doing us the honor of prayer and pledge. Justice Lemming?
Let's pray. Father, we want to thank you for loving each and every one of us. Father, thank you for the many blessings that you give each and every one of us. Father, we have a very important election coming up, and I just want to pray that we have fair elections. I want to pray that everybody just gets along. And Father, I just want to say thank you and amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Justice Lemming. With that, we'll move to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have any motions for the agenda? A motion to adopt the agenda? Second. Ladies and gentlemen, there is one item we'd like to add. I believe Councilor Lester sent that out via email this afternoon, and then also there is a hard copy here at your table, the hazard mitigation plan. And we can explain that. We would like to have a motion to add that to the agenda tonight. Justice Ecke?
I can make a motion to add that to the agenda, please, Judge.
I have a motion to add item 24-R-007 by Justice Ecke, a second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? That will be added as new item number 14. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended by Justice Dean, second by Justice Dennis. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Tongue-tied. The agenda has been adopted. With that, we're going to move on to our monthly reports. First up is the Juvenile Detention Center report. Director Tinsley. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Judge, and good evening to the County Service Committee. This is the report for the July 2024. It's covering 26 days. In the month of July, we had 23 intakes, with the average length of stay being 6.68 days. The average daily population for July was 16.58. The highest number of intakes were Battery 3rd, misdemeanor at 3. Of the 24 intakes of Washington and Madison County, 19 were from Division 3, 5 were from Division 8, and one of those intakes was a hold out of Crawford County. There were 3 transports total so far. 1 transport was performed by the Washington County Sheriff's Office, and 2 were performed by the Washington County Juvenile Detention Center. Are there any questions that I may address at this time?
Justice Simons.
Thank you, Director Tinsley. You guys are doing a great job down there. Is there anything that you need?
No, sir, not at the moment. We are currently looking at adding another vehicle. We haven't had a new one since 2017, but that's for the budget that we will be presenting later on this year. I think we're in a good space right now. We just recently redone the basketball court and added nets and padding, and so the young men and women love to play pickleball outside and basketball. So that's been the main focus, is getting the basketball court back to where it needs to be, without anyone getting hurt. But besides that, Justice Simmons, I think we're good to go.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Additional questions for Director Tinsley? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Judge. You all have a great evening.
You too. Next up is the Sheriff's report. Sheriff Cantrell.
Thank you, Judge. Jay Cantrell, Washington County Sheriff. You've got your Sheriff's activity report in your packet. Calls for service down just a little bit from last month. Detention intakes are up from a year ago. I said calls for service were down from last month. That's last year. Detention intakes are up, and we just see that trend continuing. I've noticed over the last several years that in August, when the University of Arkansas starts back up, our numbers will begin to increase. So, I think we're starting to see some of that. Hopefully they'll level off in mid-September, early October, and drop back down a little bit. Sent a few more to prison than we did last year. High count still, the average high count 809. That's actually the count today is 809. Fewer state prisoners on our average daily population, but as you can see, the pretrial is up from 474 average last year to 537 this year. So COVID is down a little bit. We've only got 3 cases, currently active cases at the jail, so that's a good thing. Helps us a lot with our space management. And I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Questions for Sheriff Cantrell? Justice Coger?
Thank you. Sheriff, can you tell us how many are sleeping on the floor right now, or as of last night?
Well, that number is fluid. I didn't look today, but last Friday it was about 160.
160.
So, yeah, but the more people we have in jail, the fewer spaces we have to
Right.
bunks for people. So,
How many prisoners were sent? Did the state pick up any prisoners from Washington County this month?
this month,
If it's on there, I'm missing it.
yes, sent to prison. That third on our report. This reporting
okay,
period
I
was
see.
35
Okay, okay.
compared to
And-
20 last year.
Okay, let me think what else I had. When the average federal prisoners is 68, do you know what that number is, just like today or yesterday?
Yes, I do. Today it's, that number is 74 today. But I think there's gonna be about 10 of those moving out this week, so we should drop back down in the low 60s by the end of the week on the federal prisoners.
Okay. What about staffing? How's your staffing numbers?
28 in the jail and 11 in enforcement. That includes 2 in communications and 9 in the patrol ranks.
I didn't hear the number in enforcement.
11 total, that'll be 9
Okay, 9,
patrol and 2 in communications.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Additional questions for Sheriff? Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you.
All right, next up for our next 2 items in our reports, we're going to have something that is not one of our regular reports. We have 2 guests here this evening to present us with some reports. The first one is Director Robbins with Returning Home. I'm going to allow him to give you a little bit of an update, but a few years ago, I think most of you understand that we took maybe an investment in the organization of Returning Home through their community alternative program, and he's here to give us an update on that and the county's investment and let us know how that's going. Mr. Robbins, I'll let you speak for yourself moving forward now.
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and kind of update how things are going. So this is a picture of our facility. We have, it's about a year and a half ago, moved to Huntsville because we kind of outgrew the space we were in. We were sharing a location in Springdale, so we moved it to Huntsville. And we've seen a lot of benefits because we're in the country now, so we're not right on Thompson and having guys pretty distracted in the program. So go ahead and move on to the second slide. So the talking points will kind of correlate with the pages you have here. So slides on one side and slides on the other, just the main points in case you wanted to write any questions down, and I'll definitely save some time at the end to go over that. So what is alternative residential program? We'll talk about that. What is the value to the community? What is the value to the client? And then the outcomes are what the county funded. So next slide. So just introducing alternative sentencing and the program that we offer. So what we're able to do for the judicial system in Washington County is give the public defenders, prosecutors, and the judges an alternative. Instead of sentencing somebody to prison for a low-level charge, they're able to sentence them to us, and they're sentenced to us for 4 months. So they come to our program. Upon sentencing, our staff picks them up from the jail. We provide housing. We provide food. There's on-site case management. They go through weekly individual counseling as well as group counseling. So we have staff on-site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Random drug testing. We do programming, primarily cognitive behavioral therapy, 7 hours a week. And then our clients work a full-time job through our partnered employers. So next slide. So the who do we serve? And so nonviolent, non-sexual offenders. We pulled a bunch of stats of our clients over the first, let's see, I think we've been doing it about 4 years now. And so they average 9.75 times in Washington County Jail prior to arriving. So these are your frequent flyers, the ones that are in and get released, then come back in and get released and come back in. And they average a total of out of those 10 times, 303 days served in jail. 78% of our clients were homeless prior to going to jail. So this wouldn't be all of them wouldn't be the traditional federal type of homelessness where they've been living in a camp for years. These are individuals that are on no leases, no mortgages, so they're just kind of hopping around in their car or whatever. 89% were without full-time employment, and 59% were fathers. So we just pulled those specific stats. Those are the one that kind of jumped out. We weren't looking for a specific population. This is just looking at the data, and it kind of just shows the people that we're working with. Next slide. So the community value. So we have a number of county partners, the judicial system as a whole, Sheriff's Department, Quorum Court, among many others. We feel very blessed. I believe it was 2019, Beth Koger introduced me to then JP Deacons, and he was interested, that introduced me to other people, and the next thing you know, you guys had me up here for a couple years talking about what we could accomplish with some resources, and you all took a huge leap of faith in what we believe we could get accomplished. And so kind of today we're here to share, you know, what that's looked like over the last few years and the outcomes of that. We are very blessed to have amazing people to work with. I couldn't sing enough praises of the Sheriff's Department. Their staff are amazing. We pull our arrest rates on our individuals, and we pull all kinds of things, and their staff probably get sick of us, but always give us the information we need. Oftentimes the sheriff would ask, hey, is there anything else that we could do? And we told them, hey, we'd love to do a class so that when somebody's referred to us, we can start do a weekly class so that we can meet them on a level to where we can see them face to face, provide some programming in the jail, and they made it happen. So they're escorting people every Thursday into that room. And what's exciting is we see the jail staff start recommending people and go, hey, this person's this pod, but I think they do really great. And so they're invested in the services that we're offering. And they always ask us if somebody got out, hey, how's so-and-so doing? Did they get a job yet? So just their staff is absolutely amazing. And I wanted to take the time to just really honor them for all that they're doing. They jumped through a lot of hoops to make it work for us, and we really appreciate it. Same thing with the public defenders and the prosecutors. This is new. Outside of drug court, other type of sentencing, there aren't options. So them, coming on board and referring people to us is amazing. Community response. This is a really complex issue. We're not the answer for everything. there is so much that has to be done, and we're honored to be a small part of the process to heal our community in this area, and just knowing that there's not the one thing that we could do to solve the problem. There's a lot of things that we need to do to fix this problem. It's very cost effective. So to house somebody in jail, it's $94 a day. To house them in our program, it's $60 a day, and we're able to provide them a living that most have never experienced. So it's been very effective, and we're accountability driven. As a nonprofit, we've got to track things, and we got to come to you, and we got to take ownership. If things aren't working, we got to make changes. We can't say, well, this is the way we always done it. We've got to accomplish the outcome that you guys want to see. And so that accountability is a huge piece. And then we're outcome driven. Your investment, your outcome, it pays fines. Individuals are showing up to court. They're sober. They're taxpayers. We're reducing time in jail. And we'll kind of get into some of those stats in further detail in a second. All right, next slide. So value to the client, because these individuals are all local, their families are able to be a part of the program. So in their therapy sessions, they can invite their families to join, and we've had mothers, and we've had daughters, and we've had wives participating in this counseling, and that's a really amazing opportunity to work alongside the families. We do family days every month. Just Saturday, we probably had 60 plus people on property. Our pool was jam-packed with kids that were splashing me with water. I almost drowned. But then to see them interact with relationships, and the one thing is our population doesn't really know what healthy relationships are. And so when we get to meet their families and their loved ones, and we get to see them interact, and we interact with them, we always say with all relationships, you need to lean into them or you need to lean out of them. And so then we sit down and have those conversations on the weeks that go by and say, like, hey, this is probably not the healthiest person with how they're living their life right now, and kind of have them distinguish that, because there's a lot of trauma bonding. And so in their mind, they're thinking, I just need to go back to this person because this is my person, but then they'll fall back into that old lifestyle. So that's a really neat opportunity. We have we got a lot of tearful mothers that come and are really excited to see that their boys are their boys again and get to see that transformation. So having that family piece is huge. We do a fatherhood class. So if you're a dad, you go through 6 weeks of fatherhood training through a partnership with UAMS, and that's been exceptional. That's guys in a cohort of 6 digging deep, being super transparent and honest about their failures as parents or their upbringing and the trauma that's resulted from that. So that's a neat opportunity. And so sustainability at home is huge. We're not looking for programmatic success. Like, I could lock them in the building and they'd be crushing it. They'd all pass the drug test. They'd all do everything they're supposed to do. That's not what we're here for. After they get through a certain portion of the program, after 6 weeks, they can start getting passes to go home for 8 hours. And then when they graduate, if they want to stay on, then they can have overnight passes. So we're gradually reintroducing them into the community that they need to be whole in. And when we're connecting them with partners, if it's therapists or if it's recovery groups or their primary care physician or their employer, they're doing it in their community. So these all transition. We have guys coming to family days that don't live there anymore and still bringing their kids and their families. And we get updates from guys that are still going to work. We've had a very high employment retention rate for our graduates, so much so that Tyson actually heard about it, and we have signed a strategic partnership because they're like, we would love to have people showing up to work at that rate. And so that's after they've left our building and they're still showing up to work. So that's exciting. All right. Next slide. So timeline. Just give you an idea of what it looks like. So an individual would go to jail. They'd speak to an attorney. The attorney speaks with the prosecutor, and then they submit a referral. That referral comes to our staff, and we do a compatibility interview. Make sure that individual is right for the opportunity and that they want it. And so we interview them, and if we do think it could be a potential good fit, we staff it. And then after staffing it, we invite them to attend a CAP class at the Washington County Jail. And so then they typically are around 4 different classes they attend prior to, waiting for sentencing and stuff like that. We've had guys, one guy, I think he's come to class for like 9 months. But so we get to know them there, and that's really good. And what we do is we see the brotherhood already developing in that moment, because they'll say, hey, last week when we learned this, we went to our pod and we were talking to the guys about this, and now he wants to come to class too. And so it's exciting, because the big piece of our program is culture, because we're working with the people that if they would have got out on their own, they would have struggled. So you bring them into a culture that you bring one new guy into a building that we have capacity of 26 guys. The other 25 are doing what they're supposed to be doing every day. But that 26 guys just going to fall in line, especially because he knows those people. There's guys on my staff that know people that come to our program. They're like, you're doing this good? Just tell me what I got to do to have that life you have. So that's pretty exciting. So once we accept them, we get with the attorneys, and the attorney sets the plea bargain date, and they get sentenced to us. And so we're a condition of release. And then we provide transport. So we don't want the individual just to be released to the community and hopefully they show up. We want to go to the jail, get them released to us, because sometimes on accident they get released, and oftentimes they get in trouble within a couple hours before we can find them. So we really need that process smooth. All right, so outcomes. Can give you an idea. This is a 3-year study. So we're not talking about somebody that just graduated yesterday. Over the last 3 years, 33% of our individuals had been rearrested. And the average rearrest rate for individuals that did not complete the program is 64%. So we've been able to reduce the arrest rate by 31%, which is extremely significant, knowing it costs less to do that. And only 4% over the last 3 years of our graduates ever went to prison. So again, these are individuals that were going to go to prison. We stepped into the gap, and only 4% over 3 years went to prison. So what that typically means is, so 19% are failure to pay fines. We have some FTAs on some other courts, some district stuff, and so just some things that we weren't able to get handled, and they aren't handling it themselves. So there was a report by the state of individuals that who had been released from prison that were drug offenders, nonviolent charges. So the charges that we take, those individuals that were released in 2017 recidivated, that went back to prison. So not just got arrested, but went back to prison at a 60% rate. So sometimes people, when they hear, hey, we're working with nonviolent and non-sexual offenders, they're like, well, you're cherry picking charges. These are the charges that actually recidivate at the highest rate across the nation, because it's lifestyle crimes instead of situational crimes. And so it just kind of put that comparable to us and them. Our clients average paying $742 a month towards circuit and district courts fines and fees. So when an individual is working with us, we don't control their money, but we do control their expectations. So if an individual has a $50 a month fine that they need to pay, we actually have them pay that amount every single week. So all their monthly, we now make it weekly, because we're covering the cost of them being there, and so they have that funds. And so we also set up goals for getting license back, DASAP, like all the things they have to do. If you ever look at our Facebook page, you see a guy every single week getting a driver's license or a car, or just doing awesome things and we usually put in there like, it's been 10 years since this guy had a license, or those different things that. Real quick, I know I'm running out of time, but I just want to share one story that happened just like a couple days ago. One of our guys went through our program. He's got 2 young children, and he's been grinding really hard, saving up thousands of dollars, because he knows I need to get a vehicle and I need to get a place so I can have my kids move back home, because they're not in the greatest environment. So he was able to get a vehicle the same day. He got a vehicle, drives back to our property, 30 minutes later gets a phone call that his son was being rushed to the hospital. Shoots down to the hospital, they take him to Children's in Springdale, and he had to have emergency surgery, and it was so amazing that he was there because this kid's screaming in pain and going, I need my dad. And literally 30 minutes prior to that, his dad wouldn't have been able to get the right, like for us to like figure out how we could have got him there would have took time. And just to know that he then was able to stay the night at the hospital and be there for his son and be there until he got released from the hospital. And then I saw him Sunday, he goes to church with me, and I gave him a big hug and I said, I don't know if you understand how huge this was. You were in a high stress situation and you didn't drink. I'm so proud of you. And he goes, I just need to be the dad my kid needed me to be. And these guys are doing those things. So this isn't just affecting this individual. This isn't just freeing up jail beds. Like, these are changing lives and generational, because we've worked with fathers and sons and cousins, and like, our community's pretty small, the people that we work with in the jail. Everybody knows everybody, they're related to each other. So we believe every person we impact, there's gonna be a ripple effect. So over the last 12 months, 73% of our graduates maintain employment compared to 35% of our non-graduates. 80% of the fathers stated they increased involvement in their child's lives from being in our program, and we see that on family days. There's guys that start that class and say, there's no way the child's mom's gonna let me see this kid. And then within 6 weeks, actually, you just get that little bit of hope of, hey, we need school supplies. Okay, I've got a job, I've got money, I'm gonna get the school supplies mailed to you. Well, I guess if you do wanna see your kids, like, it just starts opening those doors. They start paying child support. They start doing the things they need to be, and it starts changing things. All right, next slide. So what's the difference? What's unique about our program is we limit community contact at first because they are local. We let them earn the passes. We're a family. It's not just about doing your time, but it's being a part of a community. We have a lot of guys that really believe in what we're doing, and this is an amazing opportunity for them. Like I said, we don't control their money. We control the expectations. We have peer-led leadership. Everybody that walks in the door gets a mentor. It's a guy that's been in the program longer. And then we have positive character awards. Whatever you're focusing on is what an individual repeats in life. So if we just get on to them every time they screw up, they're going to keep screwing up. But if we get on to them every time they show positive character, and we actually write them up for it, and then at house meeting, we point them out going, I saw so-and-so do this. That's huge for our community. We really appreciate it. We have contests. Guys compete against each other to see who can get the most positive responses from staff. And so you see that change their focus as they go through their day. We work directly with the courts. So if they've got any open cases, we're getting a hold of courts, we're getting a hold of attorneys, we're getting fees paid for, we're saving up stuff. It doesn't matter if it's not even in the state. We're working however we need to get a lot of their court stuff handled before they leave our program. And then we do random drug testing, but we do it through a lab. So we know exactly what is in the system and what's not supposed to be in the system. Because if somebody, oftentimes they'll bond out. When they come to us, they've used everything you can imagine while they're waiting to come to us, and so that we're able to track levels and make sure the levels are going down so they don't feel like they could use during the entire time they're in their program. So that is pretty much it. Do you have any questions?
Questions for Director Robbins? Justice Coger?
Thank you. This is very impressive, Nick, and I can tell I loved hearing you speak because you get so enthusiastic about what you do. And the 80% of fathers increased involvement in children's life, that's amazing. Yeah. But remind us, how many can go through the facility at one time? 19?
26.
26?
Yeah.
Okay. And while these percentages are good, but do you have numbers like 3 years, 33% of graduates return to jail? What would be the number of that? Do you have that?
Like how many individuals? I don't have that, but I can get it to you. It's like I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, and the same thing on the 64% program failure. Just, it'd be interesting to see how many that actually is.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay.
But That's all I have. Thank you so much. Oh, no, one thing. I remember when you mentioned that call when I called you in 29.
Yeah.
Do you remember also telling me that you had just gotten in trouble with your board from something you said at a meeting in Little Rock?
Yes.
And you said, don't tell anyone you talked to me. And what did I
Yeah.
do? I went and put you on the agenda.
You really did. Yeah, you put me out there, that's for sure.
That's all. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Director Robbins? Director Robbins, you take just a second to introduce your colleague there, another face that we'll see from the Returning Home Program.
Yeah, Brenda Stringfellow's the director of our program, and she really does everything. I just track what she does.
Nick, I want to thank you and your team, not just for what you're doing with the CAP program, but also you're an incredible resource for our county. Anytime I call or email, Nick's always there to try to give me his take on this. I also want to say that we work a lot in the criminal justice world as this board and as the county. Guys, we have something here that's actually working, and I think that we should be appreciative of that. I think that we should look back on how difficult those decisions were to make 3 years ago, how difficult those investments were to make. But tonight we sit here and learn about a program that Washington County trailblazed that is making people 2 times more likely to be successful when they come out. Those are stats that are not matched anywhere else, any other programs that we're seeing right now. So, Director Robbins, I really appreciate you. Thank you for doing what you said you were going to do, and thank you for working for Washington County, and I hope that we have a long history in the future. Thank you, Mr. Robbins. With that, we're going to move on to our next item. Every year, we have the gracious opportunity to host CEO Shackelford from the Washington Regional, to update us on what they have going exciting in their annual report. CEO, welcome this evening.
Thank you, Judge. I'd also like to introduce Brooke Morgan. Brooke's our director at Washington Regional. We started our hospital in 1950 as Washington County General Hospital. And in 1998, Washington Regional Medical Center, a nonprofit, was formed, and we leased the hospital from the county on a going concern basis. And that lease runs through 2063. And that lease asks that the CEO come to the Quorum Court and provide an annual report. So you've got an annual report in your packet. I'm going to hit some of the high points of that. So first slide, we currently employ just a little more than 3,600 employees, makes us the 3rd largest employer in Washington County behind Tyson Foods and the University of Arkansas. We're licensed as a 425-bed medical center, have 5 centers of excellence, which I'll talk about in a moment. We do have 45 clinic locations across Washington County and Northwest Arkansas. That includes clinics in Lincoln, Farmington, Springdale, and Fayetteville. We also are a level 2 trauma center, and I'll talk about that uniqueness as well. Next slide, just at a glance. One of the elements of the report is charitable care. Last year we provided $22,247,229 of care that we did not receive reimbursement for. That's not our charge for the care, that's what the cost of that care is. That we touched 273,149 outpatient visits, 56,000 emergency room visits, 51,000 urgent care visits, performed 28,588 surgeries, took care of 18,270 unique hospitalized patients. There were 2,589 babies born at Washington Regional. We treated 1,587 trauma patients, 1,063 stroke patients, and to our medical staff, we added 19 new providers this year. As we think about the future of healthcare and what Washington Regional's role could be, one of the significant investments we made is in our Women's and Infants Center. And that really functions as a Women and Infants Center as a hospital within the main hospital. This year we have added an OB programmed where we have an obstetrician on site 24/7, 365. We are the only hospital that has a fully staffed intensivist ICU that is located next to that. Typically, things in maternal care go really well, but when they go bad, they can sometimes go bad very quickly. So having that ICU down the hall makes a huge difference. Our Women's Infant Center includes a 34-bed NICU, which is the largest and highest level NICU in Northwest Arkansas, and the only Ronald McDonald House. So we provide Ronald McDonald House free of charge space on the top floor of our Women's and Infant Center, and it is the highest occupancy Ronald McDonald House in this region, which is really cool. We've made an investment in graduate medical education. Been a lot written about the number of medical schools expanding in Arkansas. But when a physician graduates medical school, they can't practice until they have completed a residency. So we have plans to add 92 medical residency slots by the year 2030. We opened last year a 6,000-foot graduate medical education space specifically for that. And today at Regional, we have 45 residents in family practice, rural tract family practice, and internal medicine that are getting their training at Washington Regional. As a part of this space, we're building a 6,600 square foot SIM center. That's where nurses, physicians, and other healthcare professionals can be trained. There are rooms that duplicate what a medical room, an ICU, and an operating room work, and students are able to practice in that. Typically, you see each discipline have their own sim lab, and our idea was to have a multidiscipline sim lab, so physicians and nurses and other health professionals could train as a team. We sometimes think we can train them as individuals and then throw them in a team environment, and we think this will make a big difference moving forward. Next slide. It's always nice to be recognized by external entities. This is data that was recently published. You may have seen that Washington Regional was recognized as the highest performing hospital in Arkansas. There were 12 areas of care that we were recognized as high performing. You can see those listed. It's things that you would go to the hospital for, things like diabetes and heart attack, heart failure, hip fracture. What's really cool about the U.S. News is it's not a reader's choice type poll. It's actually based upon quality and outcomes. And we have been rated as the best hospital in Northwest Arkansas 5 years in a row, and this is the third year we've been rated as the best hospital in Arkansas. Next slide. In addition to what U.S. News, there's a group called Leapfrog Group that recognizes hospitals based upon patient safety. They issue letter grades from A to F. In Arkansas, there were 6 hospitals that received an A for patient safety. There were 2 in Northwest Arkansas, and Washington Regional was one of the 6 in Arkansas and one of the 2 in Northwest Arkansas. Also recognized this year by AHA, the Arkansas Department of Health, recognized by the National Blue Cross as a Blues Distinction Center in our hospice program and in chest pain. Next slide. I mentioned our centers of excellence. The J.B. Hunt Neuroscience is a service that really makes a huge difference every day. We're recognized as a comprehensive stroke program, one of 2 in Arkansas. Arkansas is leading edge from a system to where any patient that goes to any hospital in Arkansas is linked with Washington Regional or UAMS as a hub hospital. Treatment begins while they're in the field. Just a couple of stats. Was recently reported what stroke mortality of folks in ages 35 to 64 between 1998 and last year. Our stroke mortality in Washington County decreased 41.2%. That was the #1 decrease of any county in the U.S. out of 3,144 counties. Our stroke mortality in ages 65 and older decreased 61.3%, and we were the number 2 county in the U.S. for that. So that really shows that that's working. The other thing in neuroscience is spine care, and this year we received from the Joint Commission the Advanced Spine Certification, the first hospital in Arkansas to achieve that. At our Walker Heart Institute, we're recognized for heart and vascular care, providing some of the cutting-edge procedures that typically you only see in large academic medical centers, things like MitraClip, mitral valve repair, and we're actually doing a robot-assisted mitral valve repair, and we're the first hospital in Arkansas to be able to do that. Next slide. We also have centers of excellence in our Women and Infant Center, talked about earlier, 2,589 babies, including 26 sets of twins. We cared for 513 babies in our NICU and cared for 646 moms that were in a high-risk pregnancy. Our Pat Walker Senior Center focuses on primary care. It's dedicated for those that are 65 or older. Actually, the average age of a patient in our senior clinic is 80. So that means for every 65-year-old, we're taking care of a 95-year-old. So really state-of-the-art care for our seniors. We also are recognized by Joint Commission as a joint center of excellence, and we began offering robotically assisted hip replacements this year. Next slide. I mentioned earlier from a trauma standpoint that we are a level 2 trauma center. In Arkansas, there is one level 1 trauma center in Little Rock. There's one in Springfield. Arkansas has 3 level 2s, Washington Regional, one in Little Rock, and one in Hot Springs. So we serve about 26 counties as a level 2 trauma center. We have basically patients arriving every day, some of them by land ambulance, many of them by air ambulance, really cover south like Mena and that area over to Clarksville, and then not only northwest Arkansas, but northeast Oklahoma, where it becomes equidistant to go to Tulsa or Springfield. That's the tipping point. We're taking care of those in between. And that's a great service. You don't know when you're going to need trauma care, but when you do, you need it right then, and to be able to have that level of care here close to home is really important. Wanted to touch briefly on our outreach. We have operated the cancer support home, worked with the county of being able to take the proceeds from the sale of the cancer support home on Woolsey and invest in a brand new cancer support home that's on our campus. The previous cancer support home only had 2 rooms for overnight stay. The new cancer support home has 8 rooms. We were able to serve 2,356 unique patients. You don't have to be a Washington Regional patient. You have to be a cancer patient obtaining care in Northwest Arkansas, and that care is free of charge. That includes overnight lodging, provided 1,420 nights of lodging. Often patients that are having treatments, maybe a daily treatment for a week. Well, if you have to drive every night an hour or an hour and a half when you don't feel well and drive that same distance back and forth the next day, that's really a burden. So that's a unique service that we provide. We also provided 1,285 items such as wigs to 354 clients, provided breast care navigation to 405 clients, and distributed over 21,000 in travel and assistance to 71 unique clients in Northwest Arkansas. Our senior support in action focuses on patients that are elderly, that need help with meals. They do not have reliable transportation to go to critical appointments, including medical appointments. We completed 152 trips, 228 pantry deliveries, and drove over 11,600 miles for patients. Staffed 100% by volunteers, and for the clients, there's no cost of that care. And then finally, want to mention the PACE of the Ozarks program. That's an all-inclusive care for elderly. We're in the Harbor Meadows area in Springdale, providing care for patients that are eligible for Medicare and Medicaid and would be qualified to live in a nursing home, but they and their family want them to live independently. We have daycare that the clients can come to during the week, so if their family members are working, they can work and have a job and have their loved ones taken care of. We have a clinic located. We are able to do primary care, physical therapy, and those sorts of things. We served 107 unique seniors, provided 5,224 meals, and did an average of 1,584 trips per month for transportation for these clients. So with that, Judge, that's a summary of the annual report. Would be happy to answer or address any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions for CEO Shackelford this evening? Justice Dennis?
Well, first of all, thank you for such a good report. Excellent report and well done.
Thank you.
And thank you personally for what you did for my wife. And but one question I have is, as the Justice of the Peace, I've served 12 years or something like that. I've gotten more calls this year about how do I get help because I don't have insurance and I have trouble paying for my bills. I haven't had that before, but I have had it more this year than ever before. Do you find that is true on your end, that you have a lot more people coming for help for not having insurance?
Yes, sir, and I think there's probably two factors that I hear. One, Arkansas Medicaid program. During the COVID emergency, no one could be disenrolled, and when that COVID emergency ended, there was a pretty significant disenrollment. And so we're finding folks that sometimes don't even know they've been disenrolled until they come and obtain care and find out that it's not there. And then I think second, just from an economic standpoint, with the inflation that we've seen. So we have provided more care at cost for those that couldn't reimburse. I've been at Regional 14 years, and this is the largest amount of uncompensated care we've had in that 14 years.
Yeah, I saw that large amount, and thank you very much for that. When we get those calls, who do we say, how do we address them to call the hospital? Who do we send them to, or what do we say to them that you want us to say and not get it wrong?
Sure. Well, first, anyone who needs immediate care, our emergency room is open 24/7, 365. And patient care is taken care of first, and finances are figured out on the backside. So if anyone's having an immediate issue, they need to go to the ER. The other thing we've really looked at adding is our urgent care locations. And sometimes you have something that's urgent, but it's not emergent, and it's so much less costly to be seen in an urgent care center. And this year we had more urgent care visits than ER visits. And again, that's the first time that's happened. So that's a great resource. But within our business office, we have patient care navigators. And so you can call our business office is located at the corner of Gregg and Drake Street. You can go in person, or you can call, and we have patient care navigators that can help them navigate.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. And thanks for all that you do for our community.
Justice Rio Stafford?
Thank you, Judge. I wanted to thank you and the whole team for all the excellent care that you're providing to the Northwest Arkansas community and beyond. I did have one question. My understanding is y'all are looking at a major expansion on the other side of Gregg Street. Can you talk a little bit about what that project is?
Sure. So when Washington Regional moved to North Hills, that was a big deal. Our board really took a pretty significant risk to leave the comforts of the former location and move to North Hills. We've been there right at 25 years. Our campus has doubled. We went from originally around 350,000, this is rough, to somewhere around 750,000 square feet now. So things like our business office, getting people that don't have to be on the main campus to a different location was the first phase. But we've grown all that we can grow. Probably, I thought the comment you were going to hear, because the most frequent concern I hear is about parking. And that is an issue. We really can't grow our physical space anymore because we don't have room. So we have closed on the first parcel at Drake Farms. It's right across the street, right across Greg Street. We have options on 30 more acres. So our plan is to acquire 45 acres, and that will be our footprint moving forward. Things that need to be in the hospital need to be in the hospital, but there's a lot of services. You know, back when I started at Regional, most patients who had a joint replacement were in the hospital a week. And we now have patients that have a joint replacement one day, they stay overnight, get their first physical therapy the next day, and go home. And so looking at how we can get outpatient surgeries out of the hospital to allow our inpatient to grow is the plan. So Drake Farms, you know, if hopefully who's standing at this place talking in 25 years will have been able to have accomplished the growth that we've seen at North Hills.
Do y'all have a timeline yet for breaking ground?
You know, there have obviously COVID changed lots of things, right? And capital investment was one of those things. But there are active plans right now, and I hope, you know, within the next couple of years you'll see ground broken and some progress made there.
Great. We're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Justice Lemming?
Thank you, sir. I've been in the fire service for 46 years now, and you was talking about strokes and heart attacks. Yeah. I think the volunteer firemen's, you know, we got that golden hour, they call it, yeah. And we help a lot on that number you're talking about. But I'm afraid that they're changing so many laws that they're going to push a lot of these volunteer first responders, because we had to go to a 40-hour class and get an MRE and all that, and now they're moving it to an 80-hour class, and there's going to be a lot of folks out in the field that's not going to do that. Do you have any idea, heard anything about all that coming down the pipe?
Well, first I would echo, I mean, that's where care begins, is in the field.
That's right.
And a big part of the success is for those first responders to be able to call, and they're not talking to somebody somewhere else. They're talking to somebody in our ER on the radio, describing what's going on, and especially with stroke, that care has to begin right there. Yep. So I can't thank you enough for the work that's being done. Yes, I think it's becoming increasingly complex, and that's a lot of health care. We hear that from our volunteer, but we actually hear from Central EMS and others how complex the operating environment, how expensive equipment is, and I wish there was an easy answer. I don't have that, but what I would tell you is the work that's being done is critical, and what we can do to support that we want to.
Well, I think everybody needs to. I'm not saying that we don't need to be educated, but a lot of volunteers, you're pushing them away, and volunteers is getting to be hard to get because they're scared of it, and a lot of them is going to say to the EMS side, I ain't gonna mess with you. I'll put out a fire, and we can. But then again, you can't let your neighbor lay over there and bleed to death, or you can't let your neighbor die. You gotta, if you got a heart, you'll get up and go help. But I think that's an issue that's coming down the pike that really needs to be looked at from the big boys up above us and help us with it. Thank you.
Any remaining questions for CEO Shackelford? Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here this evening.
Okay.
All right, we'll continue on with our agenda this evening. Our item of unfinished business, an ordinance creating new planning and zoning law in Washington County and for other matters pertaining thereto. I would like to give Counselor and/or Director Atta a chance to give you an update here. I know our office has been fielding a select amount of calls and questions about this. But Counselor, do you have any updates?
I think Director Ada has made some changes based on some feedback that we've received from you. And we've tried to answer the questions as they've come in. I know I owe you a response. I'll get with you after the meeting on kind of where we are on that. And Director Ada was here, and he just left me hanging. There's been a kind of a question come up as it relates to the planning board and a public meeting and all that. And so let me try to explain it the best I can. The way the law sees this going is the legislators, I guess, thought that this, any changes would come from the planning board first and then come to the court. Well, that's not how we made these changes this time. These changes didn't come from the planning board. And so when you all get ready and get to a point where we feel like this is something we're ready to kind of move forward with, then you will refer this back down to the planning board to have a public meeting and a public hearing, which is where the people that are required to be notified will be notified so they can attend the meeting and provide any comment. And the planning board will then take those comments and discussions and then send it back to you. And there can be this ping pong back and forth as long as you're making changes to what they send you, it then has to go back. But we didn't start this in the planning board area. We started it here with you. And from here, it will go back down as the law requires. So I don't want anybody to get discouraged or think that we're not following a rule or something happens. We haven't gotten to the point where we're ready to send this back down to the planning board. We wanted you to have the first shot at looking at it and addressing those concerns. So with that, I'll let Director Ada talk about some changes maybe that have been made.
Yeah, the planning board is aware. Like, we normally discuss this each end of the planning board meeting. We have a section that says like what's new. So we explain to them that we are like discussing this with you. We're getting feedback from you and the public, and we're adjusting as much as we go. So far, we haven't received any complaints until like we received that email recently. So, and I replied to it. So the problem is the public see it in a different way, and they're always suspicious about what we do. We have a database. So if this project, for instance, being approved back in the day, it has to be shown as like approved. It has to be shown a conditional use permit. Has it been initiated? Has it been continued? I don't know. I've never asked, and most of the time, maybe this property has changed hands. But according to my database, it shows that it's a conditional use permit, and I cannot pick and choose which one goes on the map or not, so I have to follow this guideline I have. If there's any changes you see, if like the same way as JP Cougar, like one of the constituents that called us about, hey, we cannot have this parcel because it's in a subdivision. We have a covenants that says like we cannot have commercial use. We can always remove all of those, but we have thousands and thousands of like those like areas like that supposed to become zoned commercial, and I cannot personally or like my team go one by one and just like verify all of them. We check our database, match everything to the assessor's office, and if they check, they're on the map. Yep. Other than that, it's like just business as usual. As I mentioned in the email, we have more than 200,000 parcels, and they keep changing each time. We do, if you check the planning website, we have the each half of a month to another month. So each month, like the 15th to the 15th, we post on our website what we do when it comes to splits and exemption. And we get like a minimum of like 30 to 40 splits a month. So, and that's like adds to the complication. This parcel is being like 14, now it's like 10 like fours. And that's a dynamic part of like cadastral data. Any questions?
Well, I'd just like to say that, this process is working. This is dependent upon people giving us good feedback and giving us information back. I think Director Ada has given a good overview of just the impossibility to go out and independently verify every parcel within Washington County. And so, the one thing I would ask is that the public try to be patient with us. We've got a lot of really good, dedicated people here trying to do the best that they can. I know the public is maybe rightfully has some consternation about the planning process that's been up to this point. There's not a lot of credibility and trust right now. All that I ask for the the general public is to give us the opportunity to serve you and fix these issues as they come up. Nobody has any kind of inclination to label a parcel or try to get a parcel permitted that wasn't before. I'm not involved in this. I also often think that some people think that there's an opportunity here that I'm trying to re-permit. I'm not involved in the intricacies of it for this very reason, that I don't believe there should be a political figure riding rough. And I've also been very clear to my team that we have to follow the legal process. We can't change the designation. I believe
Unless it
Director
has to
Addis-
follow everything.
Unless it's went through the formal process.
Yeah,
And
there
that
is no
means that
benefiting,
you-
there is no
Yes.
benefiting of doing anything like otherwise. There is like no need, because like we don't want to be in a legal like dispute. And I don't think like, as a planning, we have to cater, like I mentioned this many times, we are like helping our community and our citizens. Applicants are our citizens and the neighbors are our citizens. So when someone complains, we have like to see that like in their point of view, and that's what we do. We're always like non-biased. We cannot be biased towards like the applicants or the neighbors, because like your neighbor today is going to become the applicant next time, and we've seen this many times. They came, we had like neighbors complained about a project that's across the street, and then like they came and applied. He says like, remember, they're going to be notified and they're going to come and complain about yours. He says why? Because it's like because that's the process. So.
We're trying to do this as open and as transparent as we can.
Definitely.
It's a difficult subject and it's a lot, there's a lot of work involved in it, but I appreciate the public and their participation so far. I believe there have been some valid comments that we've been able to respond to. Justice Rio Stafford?
Thank you, Judge. I just wanted to thank you and the whole planning team
Thank you.
for the hard work you've been doing and the dedication you've been doing to this. And I know, for a lot of people, property ownership is the single biggest investment that they have, and sometimes people get very protective of that.
I know.
Definitely, and and I think that that doesn't always make your job easy, and so I just wanted to just put it out there and highlight that I think that the Washington County Planning Team is doing a good job in a very something that is incredibly complex.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I mean, before coming here, like I just added like the new 6 CUP project that we approved like this month and last month, and it looks easy on the map, but it's like really, it's a process. But like I've done this like for like almost 30 years, so I know how to do it like within like 10 minutes. But it is a process, and you want to make sure. For instance, one of the projects you're going to be hearing like maybe the 15th next quorum court. It's called like Kramer Facilities. So the CUP, the owner like moved to a smaller like parcel next door, and he's downsizing his business. So when he applied for like the entire parcel. So that parcel has its own number. I discovered today that the split went through us, and it took about like 2.5 months to be reflected on the assessor's office database. So I had to go and fix all the database information with the new parcel and reflect that, move this parcel from this area to that area as a CUP. So that does not happen automatically. It's nothing on the fly. So you have to go and do it manually. We can always like reach that point, but that is like way too much expensive, and I guess that's why we're here. We don't want to automate everything. We don't want to trust like automation all the time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I would make a recommendation to the body, if you guys are ready. We believe as staff, we're ready to refer this to the planning board and have that public comment and start continuing this process and gathering those comments. A motion. I have a motion to refer the planning ordinance to the planning board by Justice Ecke and a second by Justice Dean. Are there any comments or discussions on that motion? If not, Mr. Allen, will you please call a roll? This is a motion to refer the planning ordinance to the planning board to conduct public hearing. Motion by Justice Ecke, second by Justice Dean.
Justice Wilson? Yes. Justice Simons? Yes. Justice Ecke? Yes. Justice Dean. Yes. Justice Washington. Yes. Justice Koger. Yes. Justice Dennis. Yes. Justice Hires. Yes. Justice Rio Stafford. Yes. Justice Lemming. Yes. Justice Ricker. Yes. Justice Pond. Yes.
The planning ordinance will be referred to the planning board. Moving on with the new business of the evening, the first up, an emergency ordinance for the protection of the traveling public, condition and maintenance of county-maintained public roads in Washington County and within its unincorporated limits, and to declare an emergency and for other purposes. Last month, I had the pleasure of going down to the Judges Conference in North Little Rock. This is one of the items that I brought back. Comes from the AAC as a recommended ordinance that we have on the books. I want everybody to know right now, we're not having any specific or particular issues in Washington County with the road right-of-ways. They are having issues in other parts of the state. One of the things that they recommend in the middle of these court cases is that if you don't have an ordinance that explicitly lists out the enforcement mechanisms that we can use in the county, a lot of times when this gets to court and you didn't have those explicitly published, you have no mechanism, and it complicates those court cases. And so that's what this does, is it sets out our expectations and our possible remedies if we have issues within the county. I know that in a particular county right now, there's an ongoing court case where somebody put up a gate across the county road, and the county judge went to remove that gate, and now they're in the middle of a huge lawsuit down there. And this case is primarily the reason why this comes out. Justice Ecke?
I'd like to make a motion, we pass this on to the full quorum court for a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, a second by Justice Dean. Are there any further discussion or comments on this item? Any public comments on item? Justice Koger?
Yeah, I guess my question is, what about, it covers easements. If an easement exists and and someone put up a gate, I mean, wouldn't that be a civil matter?
Absolutely, and this gives us a way to address that. Keep in mind, it's not just what you would think of as a blockage in the actual roadway. A lot of times what people are running into around the state are cattle guards. Not only fences, but cattle guards, and then also a lot of people will put their fences up to the road, to the cattle guard, and understand that that road might necessarily be clear, but whatever machinery we need to bring down that road won't clear the fence posts and the fence. So yes, it is comprehensive and covers not only the roadway, but the legal easement that the county has.
Okay. I just wasn't sure about that.
An interesting story at the Judges Association was that there was an elderly lady who had her flower beds right next to the road in a particular county in Arkansas, and it became an issue. Flower beds. She liked to plant flower beds next to the road, and so it's not just necessarily what we would think of as somebody who's trying to be obstructionist. It's somebody might have the will to do something good, but is complicating things.
So why does this say a Class A misdemeanor then?
Counselor, would you like to? Okay, there you go.
So this is the, as you can see, this here talks about, there's already a statute for obstructing a highway or other public passage. And so that's a state law. But the quorum court can also have its own rules as it relates to obstruction of county roads, where we don't necessarily, you wouldn't have to necessarily send the sheriff out to write a ticket and them, go to court over a state law issue. So we are able to have our own penalties and remedies that, yes, the sheriff's office would still issue the ticket, but this gets more of back into when we get into a situation where we have to go to court because someone wouldn't remove something, and we're looking at the penalties and the court's looking at how they enforce it. It becomes a lot easier for the court to say, okay, well, the county has said, because you did this in violation of their ordinance, these are the penalties, and I can prescribe those penalties to you on that end. We have been fortunate not to have a lot of issues like this as far as I can tell, as long as I've been here. We had an issue one time with some people that did want to put a gate up on a county road. They didn't want people coming through. They own both sides of the county road. and they wanted to put a gate up because they didn't want people traveling through what was a county road. And there were other people and other businesses that were served by this county road. And when we had a discussion with them, they understood and they removed the gates. We've also had the issue with cattle guards, and literally our road graders can't get through on some of these cattle guards because they're so narrow. And so typically when we've had these discussions with landowners in Washington County, they will understand what we're saying and understand that's kind of the way it is, and we've not had to go down this route. But this horror story in another part of the county is what kind of brings us to our attention to say, hey, now's a good time to go ahead and make sure that if this ever comes up for us, that we're in a good place. A lot of people don't realize when we're dealing with county roads that the county road is not just the road that you see and drive on, right? The county right-of-way actually extends beyond that. And in those right-of-ways, we also have utility easements. And so we allow utility companies to utilize our right-of-way for their easements, and they have to get a permit, and they have to bury those lines a certain amount. Trust me, they don't always do that, and they try to send us a $5,000 or $10,000 bill when our road graders snap them until we point out that they didn't get a proper permit. But there's a lot that goes on within our county roads outside of just the maintenance and maintaining of the actual road bed that you drive on. And so this is to help ensure that we can utilize our county roads, we can provide maintenance on our county roads, we can take care of all the things that our rural residents need out in those parts of the county without having any problems. And so that's really what this is.
Thank you, Counselor. Are there any further questions on that? Justice Leming?
Well, that just made me think of something. So can we add a little bit of language to this deal and say, let's put your mailboxes on the back of the county road so the grader can grade it? Let's make an amendment right quick.
This include any obstruction. I mean,
Okay.
this is anything. We can ask people, we can tell people, if there's an issue, we can say, hey, we need you to move your mailbox back.
Well, on paved roads, that's not an issue, but when you're on a lot of your county roads out in the wild woods, they put them on the outside of the ditch, so the grader can't blade the ditch behind the mailbox, so you always have a washout there.
This will give us a lot more teeth to go out if we need to. We try to be respectful of people and what they need. And you'll see county roads, you'll see some mailboxes kind of on the side that may be in our right-of-way that we allow as a necessity to the people. And so it's not that we want to go out and enforce this every time we see something going on. This is really so that as time goes on and issues arise, we can address those. If it's not an issue and it's not causing our road grader any problems, and we're not having drainage problems or issues, then it may not be something that we want to go and ask somebody to move their mailbox, because the mail carrier still has to be able to get there. So yes, this gives us the ability to do that should that issue arise, certainly.
Any public comments on item 9.1?
Sherry Main, Riches Road, Fayetteville. I had some comments on the other that are passed to the planning board, but anyway, this particular ordinance, I read a lawsuit that the county was sued by a lady over on off of Wheeler Road because the county came through and paved the road and took out her fence and a lot of other areas. I don't know if that lawsuit's still pending. I read the case, and I'm wondering if this came about because of that. And I might add the fact that if you live in the county, the unincorporated part of the county, out in the wild woods is what you want to call it. I live on a road that may be in some places 25 foot wide. 2 cars can't pass. Mailboxes are right next to the road. And by the way, there is an ordinance on how to place mailboxes. The county has an ordinance on that. So I think we're getting into nitty-gritty areas that if you have a 50-foot right-of-way, if the county by state law has a 50-foot right-of-way on a county road, I'm sorry I'm boring you, Judge Deakins, but if there's a 50-foot by right county right-of-way for them to come through. There are setbacks from that for utilities, and then setback that you can't put a building that close to the road. But people have buildings next to the road. People's houses sometimes are in that setback area. And this is going to get into where you're going to start widening roads for all of this new zoning ordinance for the traffic to get through. It's going to really affect District 7 out in my area because the roads are narrow and there's lots and lots of traffic and new housing, subdivisions, dirt pits, quarries, lots and lots of traffic. And if you get into people's property, they cherish and they're very passionate about their property and their property rights. And I'm just saying that for the fact that when you start telling people you need to move your mailboxes back because the county grader can't come down here, you need to move your fence back because you're not within the 50-foot setback of the county road. I mean, you're getting people kind of hyped up, especially county people, people in the unincorporated area of the counties, and really, J.P. Lemming knows this. I mean, you know, you get to messing with some of the stuff that goes on out in the county, and you get a lot of pushback. So I think we need to just be mindful of that.
Thank you, Ms. Main. Public comments. Any more public comments this evening?
There's no more. I'm the only one here.
Mr. Allen, will you please call a roll? I have a motion to pass item 9.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? That item will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 10, an ordinance creating 2 new grant funds and for other matters pertaining thereto. Ladies and gentlemen, we've received a couple of grants from the opioid settlement funds. These are just to create 2 new grant funds so that we can accept those monies and then track their expenses as we pay out those grants. Justice Ecke?
Motion to pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, second by Justice Dean. Or any further discussion or questions on this item? Any public comments on item number 10.1? Seeing none, we'll have a motion to pass item number 10.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 10.1 will move to the full quorum court. Item number 11, an ordinance amending the road department budget for 2024 and for other matters pertaining thereto. Ladies and gentlemen, we participate in the state aid projects for asphalt overlays. This operates much like a grant would. This is us accepting our portion of this money for the 2024 year, and then, of course, using that money on our roads. Justice Ricker? Motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Dean. Any further discussion or questions on item number 11.1? Public comments on item 11.1.
Sherry Main, Riches Road, Fayetteville. Does this include chip and sealing? Because I know I've been on a lot of roads that were asphalted, and now they have gravel and oil put down, and the people are complaining with the dust. So what is the difference between chip and seal, which has a curing period? I've read that somewhere, I think, in some of Judge Deacon's comments about a curing period over a number of months, and it looks like asphalt. But what's in the interim for the people who have the dust, where they did have a paved road, now they have chip and seal and dust? That's just another comment I want to make, just to make the meeting longer.
Thank you. I have a motion to pass item number 11 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 11.1 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item 12.1, an emergency ordinance calling a special election on the question of the levy of the annual dues of the Tawnytown Volunteer Fire Department and for protection services and prescribing other matters thereto. Counselor, will you just go over this real quick, what this is for us, please, sir?
Sure. So the volunteer fire departments can ask the county to put the fire dues on the residents' tax statements. It can't force someone to pay those fire dues to those volunteer fire departments, but it can go on their tax statement. So that if they want to, they can. It's a way for them to collect money. And when they do, they have to ask the quorum court, and the quorum court has to call for the election on it. And so Town has sent us their letter that's signed by the people that state statute requires sign that letter, and has requested that this issue be placed on the ballot in November. And so this is us doing that, and you can see the language is in here. We've done that several times in the past year. I don't know if there's many fire departments that are left that haven't done this yet. I'm sure that once everybody does it, we won't see these anymore, but for the time being, Town has requested this.
Justice Fleming?
I make a motion that we send this to the full quorum court, we pass.
Second. I have a motion to send to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Lemming. I heard second by Justice Pond. Any further discussion or questions on this item?
I just want to say, when Lincoln done it, it upped our dues to about probably $40,000. And it really helps. I mean, people a lot of times just don't think about it, and it is fully volunteered. You do not have to pay it if you don't want to, but it's a good deal, and the volunteers used to have to sit around, lick stamps and write letters and send it all out, and it's a whole lot easier to just to collect it once and pass it out. The county will get a little bit for the handling of it, but it's a good deal. Thank you.
Right. Justice Dennis?
I was glad to hear that you said that there was going to be language in it that explains it. That was the question that I've got from a constituent before, was that they felt like it was mandatory, not voluntary. And so what will be the difference, the way that it's said on your tax, the tax request, your tax bill?
Yeah, a counselor might want to go in on this more, but on my tax bill, it absolutely says voluntary fire dues.
Okay.
It absolutely
I got
designates
hit
it
up
on
by a
it.
constituent that got hot about it and said, I don't like being forced to pay it.
Sure.
And I didn't think that we put it, that it was forced. I thought it was always put that it was voluntary.
Voluntary. Yep.
It is? Okay, all right. Well, see, I don't see it on mine because I don't have it. No, I don't have voluntary.
They haven't done it. They haven't put
Does
theirs
it?
on the.
I live in the city. Yeah. Well, you answered your own question. Let you talk a little longer, you'll answer another.
Justice Pond?
Yes, I'm gonna, it's just gonna sound like a rerun, broken record. We're not changing anything as far as this being a volunteer, dues being paid. All we're doing is, with the vote of some people, allowing, them to have the, Washington County collector collect those dues. Anyone can come in and pay their taxes and refuse to pay that if they so choose.
That's correct.
And they won't be delinquent on their taxes or anything else. But I'm here to tell you, it's been as a payer of those dues and a member of a volunteer fire district association, it's much more convenient that that's just included in there. The collector collects that money when I pay my taxes, and it's taken care of. And it's just always been good. People can be kind of confused about it, but I reassure you that if you really don't want to pay those, you wouldn't have to. I highly recommend that you do. Your insurance, your homeowner's insurance policy is going to go up. And then if you do wind up having a fire and the fire department responds, you're going to receive a bill. You have to pay for that service. But thank you. I appreciate everybody understanding how this works.
Justice Fleming?
I just want to say one more thing. We talk about the fire dues and all that. Whenever Used to, you could buy a fire truck for about $150,000, $175,000. A bare fire truck anymore is about $750,000. Used to, you could buy turnout gears for about $1,500, $1,600 for a firefighter. It costs you in the neighborhood of $6,000 to outfit firefighters now. So if this voluntary money don't keep coming and all the volunteers quit being volunteers, this county and these insurance companies is gonna pay out the tail. It's coming, and it's coming, and it's coming faster than we think. So I think it's good that they keep paying and keep coming, and I'm glad they do. So, I mean, if it's gonna get wild if it don't. Thank you.
Any public comments on item number 12? Seeing none, I had a motion to pass item number 12 by Justice Lemming, second by Justice Pond. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 12 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 13, a resolution ordering that the election be held on November 5th, 2024 on the question of authorizing Sunday sales of alcoholic beverages for off-premises consumption within the city of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Justice Rios Stafford.
Motion to send this to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to send to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Rios Stafford, a second by Justice Hires. Any further comments on this item? Public comments on item number 13.1. Seeing none, we'll take it up. I have a motion to pass item number 13 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Rios Stafford, second by Justice Hires. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 13 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 14 on the amended agenda was the item that we added, item 24-R-007, and this is a resolution adopting the 2023 Washington County Hazard Mitigation Plan. This is a plan that we put together every 5 years. The reason this is so critical is there are grant applications that are incumbent upon this plan being passed and adopted. So we currently stand in the way of even some of our municipalities that are trying to go and obtain grants. We wanted to add this evening. I appreciate you ladies and gentlemen for helping us with that because we didn't want to put this off another month. We wanted to get this adopted so we're no longer standing in the way of any of our municipal colleagues. Justice Ecke?
I'd like to make a motion to pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke. I heard second by Justice Dean. Are there any more comments or questions on item number 24-R-007? Seeing none, any public comments on amended item number 14? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass amended item number 14 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 14 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Justice Simons?
Thank you, Chair. I move that we put items 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 on the consent agenda unless we can, and 14, unless we can also, would it be pertinent to add item number 8?
It's fine. It's referred to the planning board.
Okay. So
I have
items
a motion
9
to,
through 14?
Yep, sorry. I have a motion to pass items 9 through 14 to the consent agenda by Justice Simons. Second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Items number 9 through 14 will move to the consent agenda. Our last item on the agenda this evening is a public comment period. We have a 12-minute public comment period with a limit of 3 minutes per individual. Public comments.
Sherry Main, Riches Road, Fayetteville. And I wanted to comment during this time about an issue out in District 7, which is in my backyard. Whittington Mine on Harmon Road has renewed, they've given a notice of intent of their surface mining permit and their industrial stormwater permit. The agricultural nature of this area has changed with the new mining plan that was submitted to the DEQ Mining Division. A cut for the commercial mining pit will need to be submitted. They are currently operating under an agricultural operation for hemp farming. according to Attorney Lester's letter dated April 2022. So I'm asking that perhaps a follow-up letter can be sent that since the situation has changed, the operating situation has changed from agricultural to now commercial, if a letter can be sent possibly requesting a conditional use permit for that area to match with the surface mining permit map and area from the mining plan. It can't be agricultural and mining both. So it needs to be one or the other. They've been operating as a mining pit all along under an agricultural exemption. And just FYI, they bought 50 acres next door to them, the old Jorgensen property. They're already taking all the tree lines off of that property. So I don't know if they're moving their agricultural property over agricultural plan for the hemp farming to that other farm they bought next door, or if that's going to be a commercial mining pit as well under the umbrella of an agricultural operation. But District 7 in my area, we're getting very tired of these under-the-radar mines operating under agricultural exemptions. They're hauling red dirt out in trucks. It's a mining operation. I don't care if you're charging a $45 haul fee, no tax. It's a commercial operation. If you put up a smoke screen, say it's something else rather than this, it is what it is. And the county needs to administrate it. They've let District 7 down entirely. I've been on the phone today for 3 hours with people calling me with questions on all of this. Then I called DEQ, talked to the enforcement officer there. I currently have a FOIA request for all of this paperwork. Really enlightened me today. And that's not to mention what I found out on Heritage Farms, Bobby Morris's property over on Greenboro Road. Those people are sick and tired of eating dust. If you drive down that road, it's pitiful.
Thank you, ma'am. Public
Terrible.
comments.
Horrible. Thank you.